Good afternoon and welcome to our third Productivity 3000 Advanced Programming talk show. And today I've got a guest. He hasn't been back in a little while, but he's been here before. But this is Mr. Richard Palmer. He's from our business development team, and he knows more about this product than I do. He helps our customers out with some special requests and stuff like that. But he's going to help me go over and go through what we've got today. So let's go ahead and get started so we stay on track. Well, first off is our hardware overview. Just going to hit a few things real quick, and Richard, feel free to jump in if you want to. Hardware overview, the Productivity 3000 is our newest lineup in our, I don't want to say PLC line. They call it a pack, which is programmable automation controllers. Then there's a lot of diversity out there of, some customers are like, well, but the biggest thing to say is it's a PLC with PC control or PC power in the brains of it. And this has been out since, 2009. It's almost 2 years, right?
Yeah, almost 2 years.
Okay. Well, anyway, if you're not familiar with it, you start looking at the specs of it. It's going to have a lot more power than our most powerful PLC. The good side of this one is we still have free software, and we'll talk about that today, and we'll actually show you where you can get the free software. When we start charging for that software, it's probably going to be, a little over $500 or so, right?
$485.
Okay. So $500 roughly. So, we suggest go ahead and, while you got a chance, grab the free software. But as you can see on the overview, it's modular, rack-based footprint, just like any of the other ones. We got 36 discrete and analog I/O options. There's 7 built-in communications port on the processor. Local and remote I/O expansion. What's cool about this one is you can actually tag expansion bases off of the remote, and I'll show that in a second on one of the demos we've got there. And 50 megabyte user memory, everything stored in the CPU. Documentation, all of it's there in the CPU, which is unlike some of the older PLCs.
Yeah, that's one of the things customers really do like about that is the documentation. Everything is right there on the PLC. You don't have to go hunting for it.
Right. So. If you haven't watched, we've probably had 6 or 7 AutomationTalk shows about the Productivity 3000. So, if you're not familiar with it and you're like, wow, I haven't seen this yet, or I haven't read any of the specs on it yet, or you haven't got plastered with all of our advertisements yet, go out and watch one of those. Go out and watch all of them. But what we're going to hit today is just some advanced instructions. We're going to hit 2 instructions. Let me go through the slides so I don't get off course here. But the hardware overview, again, we've got analog option modules there. We talked about we got standard discrete modules. We're still working on modules that go with this product. There's going to be some.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah, there's going to be some high speed, motion control, all that stuff's coming out. So everybody always asks on that one. We're always expanding any of our product lines. I say the only thing we never expand on anymore is probably the 305, and that's because it's been out since 1978, 1980.
Yeah, 1982 as a matter of fact. So
at some point you got to stop. But no, anything else we're always expanding on. So yeah, there are a lot of option modules that we're coming out with this, a lot of new hardware we're coming out. And there's also some new key features in the software, and I'm supposed to remind Richard to sort of hit those today and see if we can show a little bit of them, but I want him to hold back some because we have a new seminar or talk show coming up that we're going to go over new stuff. Let me walk around real quick and just show if I can get the camera guys to show over here. I don't know if you've got a wide angle there. We can back out and hit both of them. Yeah, they're going to scroll through, but what we've got here is we've got 4 racks, and the one I've got. There we go. Cool. Got a lot of static here in my mic for some reason. What we got here, we got the CPU, and drop down below that is we got an expansion coming off the processor, and this is pretty cool because you're using a standard just USB A to B cable, and it drops down. It recognizes everything in the rack. Well, then we've got a remote I/O, which is over here, and in that one we're just using standard. Basically, it's Ethernet cable. And it's running over to it. Now I am running through a hub here because if we were going to have multiple remote I/O bases, we'd go into the hub, and the hub go out to all of our remote I/O bases. And it just makes life simpler. Now you do want to keep these separated from your standard network of communicating with the processor and any type of other devices like your HMI and whatnot. But what we have off of our remote base is we actually drop down with another USB cable, and it goes to another expansion. And when you log into when you come up to the CPU and the software, You go right to it, and it'll actually see all of your I/O in all of these bases. There's no more writing code and setting this stuff up. It just sees it, and you go with it. So that's just a little rundown on that. Now, sorry about that. I'll probably have to run back over there again in a second as Richard gets into this, because we're going to show some of the LCD display screens. But 2 instructions you're going to go over is the advanced instruction demo, and this is setting up email, because you can use this processor or this automation controller to email, and then also we're going to show the LCD display that's on the processor and that's on the remote I/O. So Richard, if you want to show real quick how the email is going to work, and I get the guys to transfer the screen over to the computer.
Yeah. Great thing about the email, it's really handy, especially for troubleshooting, doing remote monitoring of a machine. Telling your maintenance guy that, hey, you need to come fix something, or telling an operator it's time to change something. Those types of things, really handy for that type of thing. First thing you'd have to know is your server IP address. You usually get that from your IT guy, or in some cases you can take in, if you know what the URL is, you can ping the URL, and then the ping will give you back the IP address that you can put in here. So very first thing you got to know, we're just going to dump one in here, and then your source email address. That's going to be the address that the email is coming from. So that's going to be the address that's associated with this pack, or with the user that is going to be sending the email. So this would be just any address that you want to take and put in there. Your subject's going to be a text field, and just any text tag name will do. You take and load it up previously in the program with whatever you want to say, and that's what will get put into the subject in place of the tag. So you notice that we're not bothered to define the tags. The tags aren't previously defined. Same thing for message. And then your destination email addresses, that would be the addresses that you're going to go to. Okay, and then you've got this flag down at the very bottom for mail sent. So, you may want to verify that this email actually got sent.
Right.
Because somebody may have pulled the Ethernet cable out or something, or the email server may be down. So you may have a local HMI that you want to be able to alert somebody that, hey, the email didn't go out when it should have. So that's pretty much all it. You define the strings right here, tell them what the string length is for both the fields, and you're done. Put your conditional statement back on the beginning of it, for whenever you want to take and send this thing out. And you're done. That's it for email. I mean, it's dirt easy to set up.
Now, Richard, what would be some common uses that you'd use the email for? What have you seen customers use it for, or requested to use it for?
Definitely for error handling in the PLC. I mean, that's probably the top thing that customers use it for. Being able to take and send a maintenance person or a manager or someone that's in charge of the machine an email saying that the machine's broken or something has actually went wrong with the machine. That's probably the top thing that we see email getting used for.
Right.
Other things that could be used for sending plant managers, plant owners, that type of thing, end of shift tally results for the machine.
Okay.
That's a really popular use as well.
So nobody can fudge on their product numbers. Huh?
Yeah, exactly. You're supposed to produce 1,000 widgets. Well, the plant manager wants to see that you actually produced your 1,000 widgets. So,
right.
That type of thing. Those are probably the two top things that email gets used for.
Okay. Cool. Now, I'm just going to play dummy. Is any of our previous PLCs, that they have these features or that feature, the email feature?
Yeah, I mean, the Direct Logic PLC, if you put an Ethernet communications module in it, you can send email with it.
Okay.
And it works in more or less the same method as this does.
Okay.
So, yeah.
Also, you can email with some of our HMI, right?
Right. Seymour, you can email with Seymour. And basically, again, it works almost the same way. Seymour, you can embed stuff into the email string just like you could with the PLC using the ASCII commands in the PLC. Seymour, it might be just slightly easier because you know, you can just drop the tags right in, and you don't have to use a bunch, you know, several different ASCII commands to concatenate the string to do it.
Okay.
But it's not going to be that much different in the functionality and the way it works.
Now, I'm supposed to ask you, I was supposed to remind you about a Gmail.
Yeah, Gmail, Yahoo Mail, you know, any of the email services that are out there that use web-based email. One of our most common questions into tech is, can I use this with a web-based email account? And the answer is no, because it's not a real email server.
In other words, they're trying to use go back to the instruction if you don't mind.
Sure.
And if I can get the guys to go back to the computer, there you go. So what you have up there is the SMTP server. That's where they're wanting to use the email or Gmail or the Gmail or Yahoo and all that.
Right.
But as far as just sending it to an address.
Absolutely. You can send it to an email. You can send email to a Gmail address, but using this to relay email into a Gmail account to send back out to other addresses, no, that doesn't work that way, unfortunately.
Okay.
And it's just due to the way that web-based email works. It works completely different than your traditional SMTP server.
Right. All right. Cool. Okay. The next instruction you're going to do, and like I said, I'll go back over in front of the Productivity3000, is Richard's going to show us on the front of the processor and on the front of the remote slaves, there is a nice little 4-line 10 character. I want to say digit. my brain just froze. 10-character display, and you can use this character for several different things. Actually, I can clear this one out. If they can zoom in, there you go. You can see right now what it's displaying is that it's a P3 550. It's in run mode. It has today's date, and it shows a time up there, which I don't think the time is exactly correct. It's off a little bit. Same thing on the remote slave. It just gives the product number of what the remote slave is and blah, blah, blah. What Richard's going to do is show you what you can do to pop up a message. And right now, if they want to, I wasn't paying attention. There you go. You can see that it actually says this is a text message. That's just something Richard was playing with a while ago and popped it up. But he's going to show us in the instructions how to go through and set that up so you can display a message on here. Now, this isn't going to be as nice as an HMI, but maybe you're just looking for something simple. If you don't have an HMI, or if you want some type of messages inside the cabinet, that's where this would come in play. And I'll ask Richard, you know, again, what have you seen customers use this for?
Again, great maintenance tool. You know, maintenance guys, you know, it's kind of a pain carrying a laptop around and having to hook up every time something goes wrong with the PLC just to see what it is.
Right.
You know, so a lot of people take and put the messages on the HMI, which is great, but a lot of times the HMI is nowhere near the PLC.
Sure.
So this LCD messaging is great to be able to put up a real simplistic message to tell the maintenance guy what's wrong with the machine again. You know, because he opens up the door to the cabinet, the LCD sitting there staring him right in the face. All he needs to do is look at the LCD and see what the message actually says, you know, assuming you've programmed it appropriately and everything. And we're going to go through that right here.
Okay.
Got a little instruction called the LCD instruction. And you can see up at the top of it, you get two little radio buttons that says all LCDs or LCD name. With all LCDs, that sends it to every LCD unit that is connected up to the PLCs.
Meaning
doesn't mean
CPU and
remote slave, every one of them that's got something in it, either the CPU or remote slaves, all of them that are connected to the PLC.
Right.
Or you can pick specific LCD names and just send it to like the remote slave, or just send it to the CPU LCD, whichever you want. And if you have multiple remote slaves in here, obviously they will all be listed separately, and you can pick the individual ones. If you know the error condition, let's say that's what you're going to be displaying on there, is particular to a specific rack, you can send it just to that rack.
Sure.
So, you can either use tags for the messages, or you can just type. You can take and type in whatever the messages are. So, we'll take say here's tag 1, tag 2. Okay, and make all those guys up, and then we need to take and set a condition to send this guy on. So enter a LCD message control and send this guy down to the PLC. Now that we actually have that on, we'll see if we can actually send a message down to the PLC here. So we've got, grab the right thing here. And let's see. Oh, I don't want to delete that tab. I want to put some new tags in here. All right, there we go. So that was, we need to take and do some edits real quick here and actually put in a message here. Okay, we've got that in there. Send all those edits down to the PLC. Now then we're down there, let's take and actually trigger the message and see if we can get the message to come up on the LCDs here. So there we go, there's our message. And you know, if I take and
Error with sensor 601, replace the sensor.
there you go. So you know, it tells the maintenance guy exactly what he needs to do. You know, and you could take and change these anytime you wanted to.
So most maintenance guys, like, you know, if I worked in a high-level plant, usually the engineers were the only ones who were even allowed to connect up to the PLC. But the maintenance guys, on the other hand, had to actually do the wiring and whatnot. So that's where this would come in handy, because the maintenance guy can't come in and plug up, but yet if he can read, oh, I do have a sensor bad, I know what sensor it is, I can fix that.
Right. Or he can plug in, but maybe he only has read access, and he doesn't understand the PLC programming very well.
Right.
So this can really help out a lot, you know, by telling the maintenance guy that, hey, you know, the sensor's failed, or you know, a filter's clogged up, something like that, and they can go right to the problem and fix it and save a lot of time versus having to connect up with a PLC, or you know, connect up with a laptop and spend time doing that, you know, going the long way around to get the same result.
Cool. Now, Richard, you were going to show us just a taste of one little feature that they had just added.
Yeah, this is the find replace dialog, and the find replace is a new feature to the productivity family.
Right.
And it is really handy for being able to take and find where you're using stuff in your program. So let's see what we've got here to pick from. Let's see if we can't find a there we go. Find something. Here we go. It's LCD message bit. Let's take and search where we've used that at. Now, since I programmed it, I know it's only used one place, but
sure,
you know, if you didn't know, this will tell you every place it's used in the program. It highlights it all, checks it all. If you want to take and replace it with something else, you could do that. Or you could take and just go right straight to where some of these some of these things are. So it makes it really handy to be able to take and go right straight, you know, to find where something's used at, and being able to, let's say, main control, LCD message. Wow, that's right where that was used at. There's where my problem is, or where I need to change something or add something in, and be able to find stuff and or replace things in the program very quickly, very easily.
Now, let's back up a second. Like DirectSoft that we use for all of our Direct Logic PLCs, it has a search and replace or find and replace. but it doesn't let you select which ones. It just changes everything, right?
It's global. Yes, you're right.
Gotcha.
It's absolutely global. So, you know, this is kind of unique the way they did this. And personally, I love it. I think it's a great thing because a lot of times I'm taking and I build up, you know, sample program for a customer to be able to do something, or I build up a sample program for our website, and I repeat logic. You know, because I mean that's one of the things with PLCs is you end up taking and repeating something that's used for more than one thing, but it's the same logic over and over. You know, because if you're starting pump number 3, chances are the pump start is the same as for pump number 1.
Right.
So you know you copy that little section of logic, change all the tags in it, and then it goes. You know, it's useful for pump number 3 now instead of pump number 1. Well, this lets you do that by taking and unchecking all the instances where pump number 1 and or pump number 2 are, doing your replace, and it'll only replace that section where you're wanting to change pump number 3.
Cool.
So really handy.
Nice feature. All right, don't show anymore. We got to hold off so we can get them to come back to the other Productivity 3000. We got an update on Productivity 3000, and we're going to have some other stuff to talk about. But Richard, thank you for showing us the LCD text, and also for showing us how to use the email. It made it seem pretty easy. Other than, like you said, you got to know what the IP is of your SMTP server. But you know, if you've got an IT guy, ask them. They're going to know it. If not, then
if not, maybe you need a new IT guy.
Yeah. So maybe you are the IT guy,
and that could be too.
All right, well, we're going to stop for a second and take some questions and answers. Now, we had some people filled out when they registered. They did ask a couple of questions, but feel free to go ahead and while you're logged in, just hit the Ask a Question button. Ask us any questions you want to about the Productivity 3000, and we'll do our best to answer them. If we don't answer them today, don't worry about it. We'll send you an email afterwards, and we'll try to answer them. Some of them get a little bit more specific and in depth that we might need to ask some questions or whatnot. Richard, here's one of them we discussed the other day. A customer said, he said, Ethernet applications and how they might tie into existing or other brand systems. And what it is this. I'm suspecting this company has a plant with, say, some brand X PLCs or maybe multiple brands of PLCs. Now they saw the Productivity 3000 and they would like to use it. How can they communicate with the Productivity 3000 and other PLCs or other, brand devices?
Well, Productivity PLCs use either Modbus TCP IP if it's Ethernet, or Modbus RTU if it's serial. If you can take and either get a card, or perhaps your PLC just talks it natively. If it talks Modbus TCP or Modbus RTU natively, then you shouldn't have any problem hooking the productivity into it. If it doesn't talk Modbus TCP or Modbus RTU, things get a little bit more difficult. You might have to buy a card for your PLC.
Right.
And then that's hoping you have a spare slot for it.
Sure.
Or another option is a third-party gateway device that'll go between Modbus TCP and whatever the protocol that your PLC might talk.
Right.
Different PLCs talk different protocols. Most of them are proprietary.
Right. What you're saying that Modbus is sort of like a common industrial language that most people use as a second or third communications language. Like you said, the proprietary, Productivity 3000 have its own language. It talks to each other. Their DirectSoft stuff has, K-sequence or DirectNet and so forth. But, Modbus is just a common language that a lot of people do incorporate. And it's like an open protocol, right?
Right. Yeah, Modbus was made back in the I think it was 1980s, mid to late 1980s, and it's evolved into an open protocol that's widely available. It's probably the most common protocol that's used for industrial devices anymore. So it's really common, and that's one reason that a lot of people pick it as a primary language for the PLC, or even a secondary language, because it's really handy to be able to take and talk to other devices that are third-party devices that may not be from the same specific brand that your PLC is.
Okay. All right. Thank you for answering that. Well, we don't have any other questions. The other few that people did ask prior to these, like I said, I'll email you directly. So if we didn't answer today, don't worry. We're not ignoring you. We're going to email you and we'll answer those questions there. Let's move on. We have some information resources. Don't worry about jotting these down. We'll send these to you in the thank you email, as long as I know who you are that logged in today. There's a couple of people that logged in, and I have no clue who they are. So You may or may not. Actually, we have, let me see real quick if we can answer this one. There's another one popped up. Okay, this is a good one. I'll go ahead and ask it. I know we're moving out of it. Customer's asking, is there going to be a way to attach an encoder to the P3000? Is there a card that we can attach it to now?
Right now, it's possible to do. You'd have to take and go through Modbus to some other device. It could be one of our other PLCs, or Terminator I/O,
Right.
something like that.
Right.
But right at the moment, that's the only way to do it. We do have stuff in development, and like Shane said, we're constantly developing stuff. So
Yeah, two of our biggest things right now is going to be high speed and motion control.
Right.
That's what they're working on, trying to get it out. So, you know, they went ahead and said, okay, let's get out what we got, and we have a whole lot of other stuff we're still working on that's coming out. So just keep your eyes open. Keep asking. Feel free to ask. We don't, you know, doesn't bother us any. All right, I'm going to go ahead and go to our last slide. Richard, thank you very much for coming in here. Thanks for showing it. You, like I said, you always make this stuff look easy. Walk through it. I know you do it day in and day out. He's actually sort of like one of our backline tech support guys. He and I both worked in tech support, but he helps with more application-specific customers. So he gets to play with a lot of the far in-depth, deep-down specifics of the products. But thanks again for coming in, Richard. We
thanks,
really
Shane.
appreciate it.
Enjoy being here.